The 202nd Turin Derby finds both Juventus and Torino in fine fettle. Juventus second in the table, Torino sixth, both sides beaten only once so far, and Torino making progress in Europe as well. Alongside me, David Pleat of Luton Town, one of England's most knowledgeable managers when it comes to European football. But before we hear from David, a check on the team news this afternoon. Torino's goalkeeper Luca Marchegiani was on the bench for Italy for the first time last Wednesday. Alongside him, a teammate Gianluigi Lentini. The main problem for the coach Emiliano Mondonico to compensate for the loss of Enzo Schifo, who's suspended for being sent off against Inter 2 weeks ago when he kicked Lothar Matthäus in the face. Martin Vasquez, the midfielder from Spain, is the only foreigner in the team, with Casagrande, the Brazilian, a substitute in this match. As for Juventus, well, they've been active in the transfer market, which opened in Italy this week. Antonio Conte signed from Lecce, but the newcomer is only a substitute, partly because of two surprisingly quick recoveries from injuries. Stefan Reuter, who had knee surgery less than 3 weeks ago, and at number 10, Roberto Baggio is back. He was carried off in the last Juventus match with a damaged ankle. The referee is Pietro Ceccarini. The Stadio dell'Alpi packed to the rafters. Local pride is so important, but even more pressing the need for points. It's a sunny afternoon in Turin. The temperature around 13 degrees here. Juventus attack the goal to the left in what is sure to be a frantic start to this most passionate affair. And Juventus have a point to prove locally, if not quite nationally. Last season, in the two meetings, Torino took 3 points from them. De Agostini to take the free kick. Julio Cesar had made his way forward and now retrieves the ball on the far side, confronted by, first of all, Martin Vasquez, and then the swashbuckling Roberto Pollicano. Carrera with a throw, all Juventus in the opening minute. And Torino struggling to extricate themselves from their own half. They may do now with Martin Vasquez, who's the only one of their three foreigners in the side. Casagrande from Brazil is a substitute. Schifo suspended. David Pleat, it's a crackling atmosphere.
Well, one we could expect, a really tremendous rivalry amongst these two sides from Turin. Both sides naturally keep a very tight ship, but I would have thought that on the day Juventus, particularly with the return of Reuter and Baggio, could be termed just possible favourites.
Marchegiani with a massive clearance that Pollicano pursues with some vigour, too much vigour really. Stefano Tacconi, as ever, in the Juventus goal. Here's Marocchi. It's always a match in which the referee is a central figure. It's Pietro Ceccarini today. And the foul on Casiraghi by the former Juventus player, Bruno of Torino. A stray one by Alessio, seized on by Bresciani initially. There's not much of Giorgio Bresciani, but he's a real penalty area pickpocket if Torino can make sufficient progress to carve out some chances for him. Away goes Casiraghi, and Bruno is alongside him again. That's already one duel that's shaping up. Pollicano, who loves to push on. Martin Vasquez thought about the shot the first time, hit it the second time. Juventus stood firm. And here's Schillaci. And that's a lovely pass for Stefan Reuter. Deflected off Fusi. Cravero. And certainly not too much caution on view from either side, which is very encouraging. Lentini has done well. There's a chance for Torino here. And the first save from Bresciani by Taccone.
The game's swinging from box to box, and that's what the fans today will like to see. Really open, counter-attacking, fast play.
The upright running style of Alessio with the ball. Now the more intricate approach of Baggio with the cameraman there having a look down towards that damaged ankle. Here he is. And Marchegiani came a long way, and the follow-up was from Carrera. The goalkeeper was concerned about Casiraghi's power in the air, and he's every right to fear that. And he decided he had to go and make some sort of contact, which is what happened. Carrera got to the loose ball, and the combination of defender and goalkeeper kept it out.
Yeah, Carrera deserves 9 out of 10 for following up this cross when Marchegiani flicks it away, but I really feel he might have done better there. He had time to look up and study the situation. He's hit it rather quickly, and it's got smothered, although Carrera claimed a penalty.
Pollicano will charge up and down that left-hand side. And the foul was by Carrera. It's Annoni lined up for the shot. Well, it was a close call, David.
Yeah, there's a nice pace, isn't there, to Torino's game. They're getting forward, they're getting numbers forward. They were the beneficiary of, I thought, a slightly fortunate free kick there, and I think that Verrocchi's certainly been a little bit unlucky. I think he came in as the second challenge to be booked, but there's no messing around with the free kick. They've got their sights on the goal, and already they've tested Taccone a couple of times.
High pressure here. A great deal at stake. A very fast pace in the opening 10 minutes. Alessio. Once he can't prevent the cross coming in. And a terrific header. That's the threat that Juventus can produce. And Casiraghi came in most emphatically on Alessio's cross from the left, and Juventus have given the game the goal it deserves after such a splendid start. Head and shoulders above the rest. Bottom corner, 1-0 Juventus.
Beautifully flighted ball, but my word, didn't Casiraghi hold his jump well there? Challenged by two defenders, he got up and he almost stayed in eternity as he necked the ball down into the bottom corner. A splendid goal, slightly unfortunate, I feel, for Torino at this stage of the game, but that's really set the cat amongst the pigeons.
Baggio. Schillaci held up first of all by Annoni, and then going spinning when Pollicano came in. We've had almost 15 minutes. Juventus lead by 1-0 in the match that their supporters desperately want them to win. Trapattoni and his staff assessing 16 minutes, which, at least in terms of the scoreline, has been satisfactory for them. always in terms of the play. And now Bruno believes that Casiraghi... Oh! He's off. Casiraghi went down in a manner in which you felt he might be trying to influence the referee. Bruno blocked off his run. And what happened has been sensational, and now look at this. Bruno wants to take the law into his own hands, and quite sensibly Lentini and Crevero restraining him. Pasquale Bruno, who played for Juventus from 1987 to 1990, and clearly fired up for this fixture, too fired up. And by his behaviour here, he really has severely threatened any chance of a Torino recovery, and he's still not finished. Shameful scenes. And he still cannot believe what the referee has done to him.
I have to say, Martin, my first instinct was that it was a disgraceful refereeing decision. But certainly, in my view, Casiraghi ran straight into him and just was blocked off. We will see it again in a minute, no doubt. I think the referee has really been impetuous there. I did not feel there was a motion by Bruno to attack the Juventus forward.
But it seemed that the yellow card came out first, and Bruno then reacted. And I must say, I can't recall ever seeing a player at this level not accepting the decision that with that amount of obvious anger and a huge feeling of injustice from his part. And there may be worse to come for Torino here, because it is a free kick as well, with Casiraghi clearly fouled in the mind of the referee. And they've got to deal with Baggio. The wall now can't be more than 7 metres back, and Baggio still gets the ball up, but he can't get enough spin on it to get it to drop. Well, Torino, a man light now, already a goal down.
There we see that clever curling bend on that ball that almost drifts into the top corner. It would be dramatic and almost unjust if Torino now, with only 10 men, have to wilt and suffer the attacking play of Juventus. I felt the game was so superbly well balanced.
It's Baggio, it's a lovely ball. Alessio, well played, the goalkeeper, who was quickly off his line, appreciating the danger. Well, without Bruno now, and only his fellow defenders really have to be totally on red alert. Fusi. It's not quite so unusual in Italy for teams to have to play with 10 men. Vasquez coming across there with just a suspicion of an elbow flailing. Reuter seeing any grounds for complaint, but that was robust from the Spaniard on the German. Touched back by Casiraghi. Here's De Agostini. Schillaci working hard to make room for the pass. De Agostini, who's almost as strong on his left foot as Pollicano is, and that's saying something. Cut out by Cola to the benefit of Reuter. Here's Baggio. This is a terrible time for Torino to keep their minds right and their concentration.
Yes, down to 10 men. I think they will be able to do the defending in depth that they'll need to do, but Bresciano could get easily isolated up front, and the more efforts they make, to support him, then the more chance they have of leaving space behind. It's a catch-22 situation a little bit.
Crivero! More encouragement for Torino. And Juventus were watching the ball here and not Crivero's arrival.
That was a superb break off the ball there and picked out well. Could well have been the equaliser, and possibly something for their efforts that they may have deserved.
Kohler and Reuter, of course, have a big international date coming up. Germany against Belgium. That's crucial to their hopes of reaching Sweden next summer with their country. Italy out of the running now. Casiraghi, it was a try to show that there's more to his game than simply his superb work in the air.
And that's a superb touch off as well. But a really fine, wicked, fast curving shot there. He really would have been the central figure of this first half.
One thing to the credit of the players is that they haven't let their emotions get the better of them since the explosive episode around the sending off. They've been pretty professional since then. D'Agostini. Always seems to be a chance of profiting on the right for Juventus. This is Reuter. And certainly Torino can't block off every avenue.
Now Juventus are beginning to come forward now in numbers. As that shot is struck, there's four people racing to get into the box for any knockdowns and rebounds.
Well, David, your thoughts at the end of the first half, which I'm sure you're very glad that you've seen.
Yes, I was going to say early on, after 15 minutes or so, or certainly before the sending off, it's the type of game you'd walk 100 miles to see. It was riveting stuff. It was fast. It was box to box. Both teams wanted to play and open the game out. And then, unfortunately, the sending off has affected the pace of the game. Torino is still going forward and battling away. I think their best hope is going to be a set play. I think it's going to be very difficult for them to break down the last ranks of Juventus, who are now allowing them to come onto them and looking to break out on the counter. So far, Schillaci, much as though I suggested that he has got a good touch outside the box, hasn't linked as well as he might when they've broken out. But still, I think a lot to play for, and if Torino can get a break, then I think all hell had let loose.
It's a question now whether the referee will allow enough stoppage time for this free kick to be taken. The signs are that he will. It's Pollicano. Not always equals promise for Torino, even from that range. Lentini with that sharp change of direction. Juventus well aware of the danger. Schillaci started in his own half. He wouldn't have been offside in any case. And he's straight over the line. Oh, Crivero got into trouble with the ball rather dying on him then. And Juventus were claiming a handball. Another talking point. We've had a first half full of them. But the main areas, as we look again at the last incident of the half, Crivero stoops, heads, and then, well, it certainly came off an arm, but perhaps not intentionally. The main incidents of the half, the goal by Casiraghi, a splendid header from Alessio's cross, the sending off, which also involved Casiraghi going down, and Bruno ruled to have given away a free kick first of all, complaining, red-carded, bedlam. Torino down to 10 men and a goal down to Juventus at half-time.
Beginning Monday, the first in a two-part series profiling the world's largest environmental organization.
Greenpeace is a non-violent organization that works through direct action by raising public awareness on issues to protect the environment.
We're a group that takes risks. Are we going to offend people? Yeah, absolutely. We're going to continue doing it until folks clean up their act.
Greenpeace is an organization which is not just talking, but is out there doing something, and I think that hits people.
The Greenpeace Years begins 7 o'clock Monday, SBS.
The haunting sound of Gaelic mouth music, a new release on compact disc from SBS Music. A fusion of ancient lyrics and the latest technology in a bold musical experiment. Original and daring mouth music, available now from SBS Marketing and all good music stores.
Some quite challenging films on the movie show this week. Peter Greenaway's Prospero's books.
I have made you mad. Even with such like valor, men hang and drown their proper selves.
Ken Russell's Whore.
Looks a little flat. Need a hand pumping it up.
And to leaven the mixture, The Rocketeer. High art, street art and entertainment on the movie show, 7:30 Wednesday on SBS.
Next on The Cutting Edge, the students of Czechoslovakia whose courage ignited the overthrow of the communist regime in November 1989.
It just showed us this is the last drop in the cup of patience, because the government, which uses the sticks, has run out of ideas.
November's Children on The Cutting Edge, 8:30 Tuesday, SBS.
Welcome back to Turin. Torino about to start the second half, and during the half-time break here, much talk about comparisons with the Bruno sending off episode and the Marco van Basten affair a couple of weeks ago, when Van Basten was a victim of mistaken identity. That was the nature of the injustice then, but quite a lot of support for Bruno, maybe not forgotten by the players. A little episode there between Pollicano and De Agostini, and a more fiery character than De Agostini might have reacted. He got a bang in the face, it seemed, and he's just having a word with the referee now. But the game goes on at a quickly taken corner. Here's Martin Vasquez. And he gets the corner he was striving for. And Torino come out fighting perhaps in more ways than one at the start of the second half. But they don't have a Casiraghi as the ball flashes across the face of the penalty area, as Juventus do. Schillaci. Torino just able to hold him up, but only just. Baggio. He doesn't get very far. Pollicano, who certainly over-elaborated on the ball in the first half, was guilty of that again. Reuter. Schillaci, awkward for Musi. Casiraghi. De Agostini, half thinking about shooting. Incidentally, just to go back to Van Basten, he was suspended for a match by the disciplinary committee, but that suspension lifted for today's game on a special procedure, which at least allowed the record books to show that the referee was right. I think that was the principle that was being protected. The referee is right even when he's wrong. And that's been true as long as there has been laws of the game. It's not always easy to accept, and we've seen perhaps a decision that was hard to take today. The last thing that Torino can afford here is to go 2 goals behind. At 1-0, they've still got a chance. Here comes Julio Cesar. Well, it passed like a blur over the defenders, but the goalkeeper somehow got sight of it and did well to beat it out. How the Brazilians love the free kick situations.
That was a rocket if ever I saw one. It's a lovely fast pace to the start of this second half. I think both managers have spoken positively at half-time. Nice momentum. There's that wicked free kick. And that's at normal pace. Oh.
I just wonder whether you'd have liked your goalkeeper to tip that one over the top, or too much pace in it, Tom.
There's one thing for certain, he made a quick decision. I'm not going to get hold of this one. Beat it away.
Around the back has come Marocchi here, and Marchegiani went for it, didn't get there, and just bailed himself out, really. He's not frightened of coming off his line. We've had plenty of evidence of that in this game. But perhaps on a couple of occasions a bit too impetuous. Torino, in the recent past, don't have the tradition of Juventus, of course, but if you go back to the 1940s, they were the team in Italy. Oh, now it looked to me as though Pollicano kicked out. And I wonder whether both players have got to go. Certainly Pollicano is off. And Torino are down to 9 men. Explosion upon explosion here. And it was Casiraghi who went in and was kicked in the face. They've been looking for him. They found him. And while he's on the ground, we'll have to wait and see what the referee feels about his part in the episode.
Well, it's almost too dramatic for words. It was a stupid challenge in the first place by someone who's already been involved in incident, and then Pollicano so stupidly hitting out with his leg.
Well, there's going to be a change in any case. Now is Trapattoni going to take Casiraghi off before he gets himself sent off, or before Torino seek him out again? It was a very rash challenge. He's a young player with an impetuous streak to him, only 22 years old. 7 minutes into the second half, and Torino, if they had a complaint about the first sending off, can have no complaints about that one.
I'll agree with that, Martin. It's just unfortunate that, once again, a splendid start to the second half has been spoiled by a stupid incident.
Galea has come on. In this first of the 2 derbies last season, each side had a player sent off. Bresciani and Julio Cesar were the ones to go in a game that finished 1-1. Oh, very nearly against all odds, 1-1 here. And that was Bresciani with this low centre of gravity and the ability to twist and turn and find shots that are beyond bigger players.
It was a magnificent movement into the space on the left-hand side of the box there. He got away from his marker, and despite 4 defenders, there's that fine ball by Vasquez. Just look at that, lets it run across his body and squirms it across with his left foot. Well, what a goal opportunity he presented for another colleague. Not taken. What a game it would have been if that would have gone.
Baggio. Galea, the substitute, making space for him with an excellent run. Good stop by Marchegiani at full stretch. And only having to react quickly as the ball came back into play. But Galea darted away to the left of Baggio, and he used him as the decoy and slammed away at goal.
Terrific strike. Body flying through the air after he made contact. Wonderful save. And there's going to be some possession now developing in the midfield, and one would expect Baggio to take advantage of it and to get a run at the back defenders, and I'm sure they're going to explode other shots from that range.
Much of a contact, but I suppose Baggio felt it and went down. Certainly protected Torino's position at 1-0, as we must continue to stress, even with 9 men, they might just be able to manufacture an equaliser at 2-0. That will be game over. And the goalkeeper is there again from Julio Cesar, who doesn't disguise his intentions. It's just a matter of whether the shot's going to be on the target.
That was a very fine save. It bounced just in front of him. He saw it late and he had to take it late, and really splendid save.
Galea, who's battle-hardened and will surely be sensible in his approach. De Agostini likewise, but the two of them needing a bit of intricacy here. It's on the right foot of De Agostini, which is a bit of a swinger, but he's still got the ball across the face of the goal. Baggio. Are they in this time? Well, Salvatore Schillaci, who is the cameraman's delight. He never disguises his emotions, and he's entitled to feel a bit disgusted with himself now. Number 13 for Torino, Sordo. Minutes to go, and this could settle it. But Marchegiani, who is being called upon to show the full range of goalkeeping skills here. And that was bravery and speed of movement to get out at Schillaci. Alessio. Here's Baggio. The shot is on, and David, how hard is it for players to change their habits here? I'm talking about the Juventus players. We look back at that chance for Schillaci, who perhaps didn't appreciate the extra time that he now has in the penalty area.
Well, I think it's always difficult to change a player's habits, whatever they are. I mean, Schillaci likes to shoot on sight. He's really just suffered this season. It's all about confidence, goal scoring. He knows he can score goals. The ball hasn't run well for him this season, and he's possibly been careless too. But one comes with the other, and I'm sure that if he can get a couple of good strikes, good clean strikes, which work the keeper, then I'm sure his confidence will grow. I really do believe that Juventus, when they get the ball forward, should try and get round the back a little bit more and overload.
Meanwhile, it's instant ignominy if they let a goal in. There's no offside, and Schillaci is through again. Can he finish this time? Well, Luca Fusi just got a piece of it. Consoled Schillaci. He denied him a goal. Reuter raced away. The linesman kept the flag down. Schillaci saw the chance of adding to his meagre tally. And Fusi just nudged him.
Once again, his left foot. I think he's had 3 left foot half chances, 1 on his right foot. Missed the lot.
Oh, here's Martin Vasquez. Saw the goalkeeper off his line. And in fact, Taccone went back to make the shot a drive rather than a chip in the end. But these are nervy times for the team with the full complement.
Fine shot. Vasquez certainly has given everything and it's been very important to them. He's kept down this left side, he's kept plugging away, he's worked the ball, he's been very good in possession and waited for players to support him from the back.
The only disappointment from this game, unless you happen to be a Torino fan, I suppose, and the result seems to be a disappointment, although that might yet change. Just imagining how the game would have been over 90 minutes with 11 aside, and I think it would have been one we would have remembered for a very long time indeed. We'll still remember it for differing reasons. And it is time for Casagrande, who's been in Italy for 4 previous seasons with Ascoli. And it looked a good move for him coming to Torino. It's a good time to bring him on, rather like a set-piece specialist here, because he is excellent in the air. He's also a very explosive character as well, and if there's any argy-bargy going on in the penalty area, look out for the number 14.
That's the 3rd consecutive corner that Baggio has blocked in that position.
And off goes Schillaci. And he just showed too much of it to the gallant Fusi. He's a man you like to have alongside you, Luca Fusi, in any sort of battle. He's not weakened at all. Crevero and Noni, they've been heroes at the back, and when they've not been able to solve the problem, there's been the marvellous Marchegiani. It's almost as if we're talking about winners here. But let me remind you, if you need reminding, that the striped shirts of Juventus are being worn by the players who will be happiest by the outcome, if not the way the game has gone. And it's going to be an opportunity now for a first appearance for Conte, the player who's come from Lecce.
Sostituisce il numero 9 Schillaci con il numero 14 Conte.
So Conte gets on for Schillaci, whose frustration is just about complete now, I would think. A Christie novel where the characters disappear one by one. But Torino have one more chance. Martin Vasquez to take the free kick. And it wasn't really deep enough for Torino, particularly with Casagrande on. And Conte. It's 4 against 1. And Marchegiani tidies it all up with wonderful aplomb. They don't deserve to concede a second goal, but they might yet. Kohler has stayed upfield. And, well, I've lost count of the number of saves. That wasn't the most difficult. It's been a match that really has spelt out for you the depth of football feeling in this city. You just wonder whether Torino would have been able to sustain it against any other opposition. But the old enemy. And Tautakan has dropped it! Crivero! And there are complaints here that Torino should have had a decision. The goalkeeper is down. The play has been stopped. And certainly Crivero didn't try and jump. He was on his feet to steer it towards goal. And one hopes that in their bitter disappointment, Torino don't add to their disciplinary problems. Otherwise, they'll have a job getting a team out next week.
It really has been a fascinating game. I was off my seat in the excitement of the first 15 minutes of the first half and the first 15 minutes of the second half. The football was really tremendous. I've been disappointed by Juventus's philosophy when they've had 2 men extra. I've been inspired by Torino's attitude and yet infuriated by 1 or 2 of the refereeing the decisive decisions, but fascinated by the conflict. It really has been a game to remember.
And it's very, very nearly over. And then he's got to play it back. Is the time for Marchegiani to launch one last missile into the Juventus half. Torino's throw. Where there's life, there's hope. All forward by Annoni. Juventus players falling over each other to try and get to it. Juventus have the points. Torino have the plaudits, at least for the 9 that survived 2 amazing episodes in the game that brought red cards early in the first half for Bruno when the only goal had been scored by Casiraghi. Casiraghi, the player involved then when Bruno claimed an injustice had been perpetrated, but no complaints from Torino about the second sending off. I'm sure Pollicano kicking out, and the 9 men after that. Well, your hearts, I'm sure, watching at home, went out to Torino, but at the end of the day they've lost, and Juventus have won the derby here by 1-0.
The league leaders were away to the champions, who were close to crisis, only 1 point from their 4 previous games, and soon troubled by Ruud Gullit, a yellow card for Sampdoria's Streko Katanec for fouling the Dutchman. When Silas and Vialli combined to beat the Milan offside trap, a great chance for Sampdoria, but a superb clearance from Alessandro Costacurta, who played for Italy for the first time 4 days earlier. Alongside the Sampdoria goalkeeper Gianluca Pagliuca, who took over from Walter Zenga against Norway. Frank Rijkaard making sure that Pagliuca's mind was on this present assignment. But coming up, a crucial incident. Toninho Cerezo caught in possession here by Daniele Massaro, and Milan taking full advantage. Marco van Basten's cross, Ruud Gullit rising high to beat Pagliuca to it. Sampdoria a goal down after 65 minutes. Vialli almost conjured up an equaliser in this attack, but by now Gullit's star really was shining brightly. First he skimmed the crossbar, and then combined perfectly with Van Basten, who'd rightly escaped suspension for the red card wrongly given to him against Roma. 2 goals for Gullit, 2 for Milan, and at this stage they look the most likely successors to Sampdoria's crown. Napoli started the day in 3rd place, Roma in mid-table because they can't win in the Olympic Stadium. And but for their goalkeeper Cervoni, they would have gone behind to Gianfranco Zola. Cervoni almost caught out by Alamau, but then in quick succession chances for Roma. Rudy Foller's header just wide. Rizzitelli ruining his own approach work. And then Giannini set up by Foller. And the German himself almost forcing the ball in at the near post. And right on half-time, Fabrizio Di Mauro bundled Fernando De Napoli and the ball over the line. The goal given, Napoli not pleased. But they were relieved in the second half when Carboni catapulted forward to head against the post. 13 minutes left now, a mistake by Naylor. De Agostini allowed to cross, and Zola, now of Italy as well as Napoli, steered in his 6th goal of the season. Roma still without a home victory. Bottom of the table, Bari have been very busy in the transfer market. Frank Farina out. In on loan from Milan has come Boban from Yugoslavia and his fellow countryman Yanni. Boban making plain his intentions, and Lazio, who've been very effective in away games, in some difficulties. Soda, almost the scorer for Bari. But 6 minutes before half-time, Fortunato fatally dwelling on the ball. Stropper seizing his chance and putting the opening goal on a plate for Thomas Doll. A terrible goal from Bari's point of view. Stropper's perfect pass, Doll's 2nd goal of the season. Soda still looking lively at the sharp end for Bari, supported now by 21-year-old Federico Giampaolo on as a substitute, to immediate effect, picking out David Platt and Bari back in it at 1-1. Giampaolo showing great vision. Bari have scored only 5 goals in 10 league games, and Platt has 3 of them. In the second half, it looked as though that elusive first victory would finally materialize. But with 17 minutes left, Lazio breaking through on their left. The centre from Sergio and a characteristically courageous header from Karl-Heinz Riedler. 5 goals for the German in his last 5 games. It gave Lazio their 4th away win. Despite Platt's late effort to earn a point for Bari, they've now lost 4 in a row, firmly embedded at the bottom of the league. And their current plight made worse by the fine form of their neighbours in the south of Italy. Foggia in 5th place and top scorers in the division, and that progress maintained. Francesco Baiano recognised by Arrigo Sacchi against Norway. Baiano played a major part in Foggia's first goal, flicking on for Signori to send Cremonese a goal behind. And Baiano broke through himself 4 minutes later, his 7th of the season, making him the most productive goal-getter so far. Cremonese, on the other hand, count red cards rather than goals. Gualco going off this time, adding to their dreadful disciplinary record. Foggia didn't take full advantage of that, largely because Rampula got the better of Baiano for the remainder of the game. Cremonese 0, Foggia 2. Inter had drawn their 4 previous games, but expected against Ascoli to rediscover the formula for victory. Ascoli, in fact, held out in the first half, thanks in this instance to Zaini's presence on the post to clear Klinsmann's header. And then Bruno Giordano caught Inter not concentrating in defence, but in widening the angle, the opportunity was lost. The defenders got back. Klinsmann then created this chance for Matteus, who slammed the ball straight at a startled goalkeeper. Another Laurieri save here, as Stefano Desideri set his sights. And it was Desideri, 2 minutes into the second half, who guided Riccardo Ferri's cross into the path of Nicola Berti. Inter on their way. Matteus might have made it 2-0 before Ferri did, climbing to meet a typically thoughtful ball in from Andy Bremer. Ascoli not disgraced, and in injury time, some recompense in a goal for the Argentinian Pedro Troglio. Inter 2, Ascoli 1. Cagliari against Parma produced this controversial incident after 13 minutes. Parma's Brazilian goalkeeper Taffarel handling the ball outside the penalty area, but Uruguay's Daniel Fonseca goes on apparently to score. But the play was pulled back for a free kick, with Taffarel sent off. The free kick adding to Cagliari's frustrations. Reserve goalkeeper Ballotta brought on by a Parma substitution after an uncertain start. He saved well from Bizzoli, and again from Napoli's header. Cagliari claiming that they were robbed of victory, with some justification. Atalanta have been afflicted by the same problem as Roma and Lazio, an inability to win at home. But in Fiorentina, they found opposition unable to raise their game in Bergamo. It might have been different if Orlando had been able to round off some neat build-up here. But 3 minutes before half-time, Minardo winning the ball for Atalanta, and two South Americans did the rest, Bianchesi sending Claudio Canigia in for the type of chance he relishes. Canigia taking his tally so far to 4. More importantly, he ended what was becoming a home hoodoo for Atalanta. Prestigious visitors to Verona were Genoa, guided now by Osvaldo Bagnoli, who's revered in Verona, where he coached them to the championship itself in 1985. Radu Choyu, on loan from Bari, made sure there was no charitable welcome. Radu Choyu's mobility making life difficult for defenders who could only stop him at the cost of a penalty. Robert Pritz made sure it wasn't wasted. 1-0 to Verona after 23 minutes. But 6 minutes later, great play by Carlos Aguilera conceived the Genoa equaliser from Eranio. 4 minutes into the second half now, Davide Pellegrini first to a corner from Pritz. Only for Braglia to make a mess of it from Genoa's point of view. Eventually, Radu Choyu wrapped in his first goal for Verona, a great weight off the Romanian shoulders. Czechoslovakia's Thomas Skurabi unlucky with this volley as Genoa strove to come back for a second time. They were thwarted by one of their former employees, goalkeeper Attilio Gregori, valiant in Verona's best victory since they returned to the First Division. That win lifts Verona out of the bottom 4 and to within 1 point of Sampdoria, whose slump continues. Genoa not faring much better. In midweek, they'll play their match in hand, but it's an unenviable one against the leaders, Milan. Foggia's firepower has taken them to the heady heights of third place, ahead of Lazio, Napoli and Inter on goal difference. If Milan do beat Genoa in their rearranged game, their position, with a third of the season gone, would be most promising. For Juventus, delight at the result of the Turin Derby on a day when 2 Torino players lost their heads, while 9 that remained played with great heart. Pierluigi Casiraghi was able to smile at the end of the game. But the manner of the Juventus win certainly didn't match the style of Milan. Ruud Gullit, the hero against sagging Sampdoria. Few footballers have Gullit's ability as an all-round talent on the field and as an ambassador off it. He enjoyed a glorious afternoon in Genoa, and it's a pleasure to pay tribute to it.
On Monday from Czechoslovakia, a film based on a true story. The story of soccer fans following their team and a train trip of violence and terror.
Co blbneš, prosím tebe, bude zase malé. Kdo si ho kupe? Nějakej měkkej, mladíku.
Uvědomte si, že přiznání je polehčující okolnost.
A penetrating investigation and a grim warning. Why? 9:30 Monday on SBS. On Wednesday, a film from Portugal which explores the sensitive nature of adolescence.
E o que é que pensa? Queres falar comigo, tá bem? Miguel, francamente, isto não se maneira de falar. Eu só disse para ele falar comigo, eu estou bem.
A young man learning to read between the lines.
Vamos ver quem fica mais tempo sem rir.
Tall Stories, our Wednesday night movie at 8:30 on SBS. 8:30 Friday, Drottningholm Theatre presents Jeren Jeverveld's delightful production of The Magic Flute. The Magic Flute, 8:30 Friday on SBS.
What would you do if you discovered that one of your friends was HIV infected?
I don't know.
Don't know no one like that.
I do.
By now, you probably know that anybody can be infected with HIV. You probably know someone that knows someone that is.
Get out. Kidding.
Come on.
Think about it. Are you sharing the challenge? World AIDS Day, 1st of December.
European football is in Marseille this week as we sample the very best of what French football has to offer. It's the game of the season so far. All the best action coming up from the clash of the top two. Marseille against Monaco.